Hello, coders. Is it starting yet? Will you see the pupper on the stream? Yes, and yes. Hello, coders. This is the last live coding stream of 2019. It's been wild. So today we're just going to just have a little bit of a chill one. There's a few things that I want to do. There's a few JavaScript things that I need to play with. There's a bunch of announcements that I want to make. There's a lot of community news that I need to talk about. And there's some JavaScript that I need to fix. So it's gonna be an awesome one, I think, today. Let me just move some windows around. I've just taken Murphy out for a bit of a walk. It was a sort of a normal walk it was a normal length walk, shall we say. However, this time we were doing some proper leash training, and there was quite a lot of distractions, shall we say. So it took me a lot longer than I thought it would be. But yeah. The pupper is downstairs asleep. So what I'll do is sort of midway through the stream, I've got some announcements that I want to talk about first. I will go downstairs and I will see if I can get him and bring him up. It'll be awesome to have him on, being the last stream of 2019 for How to Code Well. Thank you very much, Tyrannad. Thank you very much, CS Gaming and Stallinboy for all joining. I hope you are all super, super well. Let me grab some tea. So, I've been doing a lot of JavaScript recently. I've been doing a lot of JavaScript. I've been doing a lot of Gatsby. I've been doing a lot of React, and I've been doing a lot of stuff for the community. The brilliant thing that's happened in the last, I think it happened last night. Yeah, it did happen last night. I only had one beer last night. It happened last night. Is that we went over 100 members in the Discord channel. So that's incredible. That's incredible. I'm super chuffed. And I'm also not just at the number, but also just how the community has grown, in the sense that everybody is learning from everybody else. Everybody's teaching everybody. And in my opinion, it's a nice and comfortable environment for new coders to come in, because we're not patronizing, we're not nasty. And to be honest, and some announcements that I want to make today, if there's any of that going on, then we have now things in place. And it's been great. It's been wonderful. It's been great to have that. And I did a podcast with Jeremy Onion a while back. He did an interview of me. And I mentioned in there, this was before we even got the Discord channel working. I mentioned in there that on that podcast, I mentioned that when I started learning to code, when it was 20 years ago, right? We're talking here. There was no Discord, there was no Twitter, there was no Twitch. Live coding wasn't a thing. Twitter fandom wasn't a thing. YouTube channels weren't a thing. None of that existed. And so what you had was forums. And what you would have is you would write a question, and then you would hope that someone comes back to you. And you don't know if someone's coming back to you. And usually it would take a couple of days before someone came back to you. So now we can actually see when people are typing. That's how quick the feedback loop has got. And that's just fantastic. That's just fantastic. And to have the ability to have a platform where other people can actually learn code quicker than I could learn code when I was learning code. Well, I still am learning code, but when I was starting out, that's what I'm talking about. That's almost. It's just great. It's just wonderful. It's just wonderful to have that opportunity to allow 100 people to learn to code in a very safe and comfortable environment. And hats off to the moderators as well for keeping things clean, and also thanks for the pro users as well for keeping me on the on the straight and narrow, shall we say. There's been a lot of projects that we've been discussing in the Pro User Group are for the community, and a lot of people have been sort of giving me their input, and it's been really sort of molded and sort of sculpted by the pro users and the moderators. And there's been things that I've suggested which are perhaps I haven't considered how complicated they are. And so having a soundboard of people who come back and say, well, actually, perhaps an easier thing would be to do this, a quicker thing would be able to do that has been fantastic. So I really do appreciate that. Standing Boy said, I'm a spaghetti coder. What about you? Spaghetti, I would probably say mine's more ravioli. It's still pasta based. At least it's not lasagna, where it's just goop. No, I still work on I work on a lot of spaghetti code, and I do produce a lot of spaghetti code. You just have to go through all my previous projects to see that. I think everybody does from time to time. But let me just put in, just for anybody who's joined, let me just put in the Discord link here. Discord, like so. There we go. So that's the link that you can click that will take you to the Discord server. Now there's let me give you a bit of history. The Discord server was around for a good few years. However, it was private. It was private to Patreons, and then what happened was, because there wasn't many Patreons, and it got very quiet, So what I decided to do was and I wanted to keep it private because I thought that would be the safest thing to do. Not allow the trolls in, that kind of thing. Have a gateway. But I decided to put it public, and I think that's the best thing I've ever done from the community's point of view, because it means that you lower the barrier of entry. There's no need to be a Patreon in order to become a Discord member. However, if you want to if you want to suggest and talk to me directly on the Discord server, if you want to be part of the town hall, we had our first town hall this month, and that what a town hall is a voice chat conference call between me and the others. And I was here after the stream with my notepad and my pen, and I was writing down suggestions, some of which have already happened, and I will be talking about those in this stream. So I'm dead chuffed. I'm really, really thankful for everybody who's been involved with it. So, okay, Stalin Boy has said spaghetti code is wonderful. Yes, it's very tasty. It's very, very tasty. So, without further ado, let's talk about some of the announcements before we get into the weeds of the code. So, I'm going to go over to this button here, and yes, we do have the Stream Deck. The Stream Deck is now working. Woohoo! So, okay, I'm in the How to Code Well repository or organization for GitHub. So notice that there's a couple of things here, new things here down this side. So we've got how to ask a question, code challenges, code of conduct, wiki. We have the footer menu, code questions, how to code well FM, header menu, and status checker, Discord bot, and the Python course template. Okay. So what are all of these things? First of all, I think what I'll do is I'll demonstrate what the wiki is, because that's probably a good start point. The wiki, you can get to the wiki by typing wiki, if I can type it, wiki, in here. Is that right? I can't see it. W-I-K-I. There we go. Hopefully that'll pick that up. That's the wiki, although I've gone and messed up the command there, but whatever. It is, I'll put in the link. That's embarrassing. Wiki. Okay, so it is wiki.howtocodewell.net. Now the idea with this is it's because there was a lot of suggestions and comments on how to evolve the how to code well and make it more community based, which I love, by the way. I decided to create a wiki. It's like just a page at the moment of links of things. And what I'll do probably in this stream is make it a little bit more, have more information on here, especially around the live streaming for next year. But here we've got a list of things: the code of conduct, how code challenges, how to ask a question, courses, and how to follow, how to code well. But before I talk about the content, let's talk about how this is actually put together, this website. This website is built in Gatsby, so it's a JavaScript static website. Well, it's built in JavaScript, but it's HTML at the end of the day. We have a menu bar up here, right? And down here, we've got a footer. Now, the footer I did last night, and the menu bar I did about a week ago. And these are React components. These are React components. In fact, if we go back to here, we can see that we have the footer menu and we've got the header menu. If I opened up the header menu, for instance, these are the issues, sorry. That's the code for the header menu, and that's how you install it. Now, notice this, at How to Code Well. That's right, we have How to Code Well. We have our own NPM organization. So I am slowly but surely building components that we can share across many websites, many web applications for How to Code Well. And just to talk you through the header menu itself. In fact, both of them, the header menu and the footer menu, they're powered by JSON objects. So these are the items, these are the links. So I can change this, right? And then I redeploy and then I do an npm update of the other sites, and then I publish that, and that they all work. Which is awesome, which is super, super awesome. And the footer, if I go back to here, How to Code Well, click on New, go to the footer menu here. It's exactly the same thing in the sense of it's JSON, and you have a left, you have a middle, and you have a right. Okay? So that's how these two components are set up. And then this is the README file. If I go to the wiki, in fact, there's a button here. If I go scroll to the bottom, if I click on edit, go straight to the wiki of the GitHub repository. This is the README, right? So what we need to do is change the README file and perhaps add some more Markdown files for the other for the components. Okay, so that's the wiki. It's pretty standard stuff at the moment. I mean, I will want to make some extra pages and stuff, but let's take a look at the code of conduct. That's the one I really want to talk about. This one here is this has been decided by the community, the pro users and the moderators on Discord. It's the How to Code Well code of conduct. Let me just talk you through it. So the goal of How to Code Well is to build an open and welcoming environment, open to all levels of coding and skills. To prevent any unacceptable behavior, we ask our community members to follow this simple code of conduct. If any issues arise, please feel free to contact our moderators. So examples of positive behavior: using welcoming and encouraging language, being respectful to other cultures, offering and accepting constructive criticisms, being empathetic towards others. Okay, so examples of unacceptable behavior. So this is throughout the How to Code Well community, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Twitch, on the comments here, the chat, or whether it is on the Discord server. So trolling, insulting, and derogatory comments, public and private harassment, publishing others' private information, patronizing and harmful language. See, I told you we had things in place to stop patronizing. Overuse of self-promotion without other community input. So please don't use the Discord server just to push your own content if you're not actually being part of the community. Unwelcoming actions and comments towards beginner developers. We were all beginners once, right? And we are all still learning. You'll never stop learning. So there's always things in web development and coding that we just won't ever know because there's too much of it. So you'll always be learning. You'll always be trying to learn new things, right? So this is just, don't be a moron. And spamming, so please don't spam. And then specific ones for Discord and Twitch. So there is a 3-strike rule, which ends in a ban, right? This is subject to user behavior. A first strike will be issued as a warning message, and it will provide information about the wrong behavior. A second strike could result in a temporary suspension, suspension. I can't say it. Suspension. You know what I mean. If the user persists in his or her, that should be or her, conduct, he or her will incur a ban, or they will incur a ban. We'll have to sort the words out there. And then the 3-strike rule, this is important, will not be applied to behaviors considered serious and will result in an instant ban. Such cases are sharing content that is directly threatening to someone's physical or financial state, sharing content glorifying or promoting self-harm or suicide, sharing any kind of pornographic which depicts minors, circumventing previous bans, any illegal activity. And then with YouTube, this is something that I'm getting really hot on. Any unacceptable comments will be deleted and will be reported if needed. So yes, I mean, YouTube has this great thing where it will catch what it deems as spam messages, but they're their spam messages, and then there's my spam messages. So if you're being mean and nasty to other developers, I will ban you. Simple as that. But notice that we've got the header menu here, and we've got the footer menu. These are the NPM packages that we pulled in, right? Okay, so let's go back to the wiki, and we can click on the wiki here. That will take us back to the wiki. So I'll talk about code challenges in a second, right? Because I'll talk about the December code challenge in just a minute. But let's talk about the how to ask a question. Because the thing is, with Discord, there is obviously a huge amount of people who are asking a lot of questions, and they all come from different backgrounds. They have different skill levels. They have approached code with different contexts. So, for instance, they may have learnt CSS before they've learnt HTML, or they may have learnt HTML before they've learnt CSS. And in order to try and limit frustration, there is this how to ask a question. So how to ask a question talks briefly about, before asking a coding question on Discord, please read the following. Please, first of all, check Google or Stack Overflow. If you can't find the solution, then please use the coding help channel in the Discord server. When writing your question, please do the following. So, state the problem or desired goal. For larger code files, limit the code you post to the targeted issue. Add any log messages that you think are relevant. Use 3 backticks before and after your code to format it, see below. And then below here, I'm going to be tidying up these headers and stuff and actually making these numbers, like points and stuff. Underneath this, we've got please write your code in code blocks. So this is what I did I built this last night, this little page. So wrap the code in single backticks. So that's a backtick. So your code and then backtick. That will result in this. So this is wrapped in single backticks. Or if you want to use longer, a longer thing here. So if you wanted to actually display a lot of code, a good few lines of code, then you would use 3 backticks like this. One thing we are encouraging is to use highlighting, so syntax highlighting, and you can use your language after the first 3 backticks. So 3 backticks and then the language. So that would be PHP, that could be Bash, that could be HTML, that could be JavaScript, that could be CSS. So this is an example of PHP. This is an example of CSS. This is an example of JavaScript. So it's 3 backticks, then the language name, and then 3 backticks to make that block. To create a new line, right, hold down the Shift key and press Enter. So it won't, when you press the Shift key and press Enter, you're not going to submit that already. You press Shift and then Enter, and it just gives you a new line break. Holding the Shift key will prevent the message from being sent, and it will put the cursor onto the next line. So there we go. I mean, there's a fair amount just to tidy, just in terms of making this look a little bit better, but that is how we would like questions to be asked, following certainly these rules first. So make sure you've checked Google and Stack Overflow for common questions. Then if you can't find them, then do use the Coding Help. I really should link that to the Coding Help channel, to be honest, on the Discord server. Okay, so let's take a look at the wiki again. Stalin Boy said, if you want to make forums in PHP, could I contribute? Forums in PHP. You know what? I did think about creating forums rather than using the Discord channels. But because of the nature of the live streams, I decided to use Discord because that's what the live streaming community did do. However, there is something to be said about the benefits of forums, because they are static posts, right? And that you can reply to. You can't necessarily reply to a Discord channel message without using the @ and then the person's name, the user's name. Because what happens is, because there's no like inline replying, it can become a bit lost in the noise. So I do appreciate that there is certainly a stance for forums, and it's something that I'm toying with in the future, but that's a future thing. I'm certainly not going to be talking about it now, but there is something bubbling in the background around these courses that I'm doing that may have forums. So if that ever happened, I'll let you know, Stalin Boy, okay? Because that would be, in fact, it got to a point where I actually ran a Docker container running PHP BB just to see how things could slot together. So do join the Discord server and let's have a little conversation. Perhaps maybe later in the year on what we could do with that. Okay. All right. So the next thing I want to show you is the code challenges. So the code challenges, if we click on this one here, and what I really should be doing is putting all of these things in the chat, to be honest. I tell you what, let's go back a couple of times. So we've got, what did we do? We did the code of conduct. Let's put that in. So that's the code of conduct. Code of conduct. That's the code of conduct. This here is how to ask a question. I'll put that in. Ah, no, I didn't know. I did not know you were Kiwi. Ah, hello, Kiwi. So this is how to ask a question. How are the Kiwis? I love your input on the Discord. It's it brightens my day whenever I see a Kiwi walking on a treadmill. They're so cute. What do? We did code of conduct, we did code challenges, and I think before I actually put up the wiki as well. I think I did that. Cool. Okay, so let's do the code challenges. The code challenges, again, notice that we have the common header and we've got the footer here. You know, woo, this is... it took me a while to work out to build these as React components. Because I was kind of like, I've never done that before. I've never built a React component before. So I was reading documentation on how to do it. No, that's a lie. I've never published a React component before that is shared across sites. That's a different thing. I've built React components before, plenty, but I've never shared them across sites. And all of these are subdomains. So they are subdomains of How to Code Well. And I'll be talking about the plan for howtocodewell.net in just a second. But let's talk about the code challenges. The code challenges. We've done one already, which has been reviewed, and that is the November one. If I click on the November one here, we can see all of the challenges here, and you can click on these, and they will go to the respected GitHub repos. Let's just go back here and grab that and put that into the chat. So this is code. Well, it is monthly code challenges. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about the November one. That was awesome. So we had a Christmas web page, create the HTML countdown page, and essentially it was a Christmas countdown. And then here we have the video review that I did. So what I'm thinking is after every month, when people submit their work to the Code Challenges channel of the Discord server, then I will do a review here live on Twitch and then upload it to YouTube, and also have the challenges usernames here. So you could treat this like your own portfolio if you wanted to, which is super cool. And I've got some ideas of how we can progress the Code Challenges site later on. But let's talk about this current Code Challenge. The December 2019 Code Challenges. So there's two of them. Level 1, Happy New Year card. So create a HTML page that says Happy New Year from your username. Use a Christmassy font. So the idea there is to use a non-standard font from Google or wherever you want to use the font from. It just, it will teach you how to use fonts and cool fonts in from CSS from an external source, or even download them and use them. Then level 2 is to make it sparkle. So add an image border. So this is a border around the New Year card. So we're still using the New Year card here, and then add fireworks. So adding fireworks, I would imagine a lot of people will go, I'm going to use JavaScript to make things, make the particles boom, 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 that kind of thing, right? Bonus points if you don't use JavaScript. Bonus points if you don't use JavaScript. If you use something else like CSS, then that's awesome. It can be done. You can animate things in CSS. So that would be super interesting. So, and I need to. There's a formatting issue. Is there? Then that's a button there that you can't see. I need to sort out the colors. I might have to. I'll put that as a bug and deal with that later on. So don't use JavaScript if you can help it. When am I going to review these? Well, because it's the end of year, this is a bit of a funky time. Technically, there is one more Sunday left, because what I want to do is do these every last Sunday of the month. But because there's the new year happening, I think what I'll do is I will allow an extra week. So just looking at the calendar app, bring it over here. And where are we here? We are on. So the 29th is the last Sunday of this month. I'm not going to be here. I want some time off. So that's not going to happen. So I'm thinking of the 5th. I'm thinking of the 5th of January to review the December 2019 code challenges. Now, I know that seems a bit weird, right? Because especially these code challenges is all about Happy New Year's and stuff like that. But I think that's what I'm going to do. So on the 5th, I'm going to review these challenges. This means that you've got an extra week. And that probably doesn't mean a lot, because you'll be spending your time with your family, hopefully, over the festive period. But do use that week if you can. I'm not expecting a lot of entries, to be honest, because of the strange time of year. Next year in January, what I'll do is I'll try and get back to doing it on the last Sunday of every month. So going on to the when is that? December. So that is now January the 5th. So doing it on the 26th, perhaps, which means that you've only got a smaller time in January to do your code challenge. So what I'll do is I'll make it a smaller code challenge than this, and perhaps a little less technical. And I think that that will be good. And then we'll continue on as normal, which is awesome. So, PHP particles. Yeah, I guess I haven't said. I mean, I've got up here like JavaScript, CSS3, and HTML5 as the things to use. But if you want to do something else, then go for it. If you want to use another thing, then go for it. I haven't. Yeah, I mean, you would have to convert it down to JavaScript and CSS eventually. I mean, it all boiled down to HTML at the end of the day. But how you get to that point is completely and utterly up to you, I suppose. I would just say that this challenge is more complicated than it looks. It's more complicated than it looks. There's only 4 points here, so create the Happy New Year from username. That's not so bad. The Christmassy font, that can become a bit of a challenge. And then the image border, we're talking now into the latest CSS stuff, and then adding fireworks. Well, that just blows my mind. So these are the things I want to talk about: the wiki, the code of conduct, the code challenges, the how to ask a question. Now, if we go back to the GitHub here, down here. Okay, so there is also another one, and that is code questions. Now, code questions hasn't been produced yet, but I will talk you through some of the issues. This is an idea, a possibility, and that is to have, because I have over 400 videos on YouTube, and I don't mean to brag or anything, but that's just, I have over 400, and next year I'll have, 500 perhaps. Well, no, I'll have more. I'll have another 200 on top of that. I would imagine because of the podcast, of course. And a lot of these are tutorials. So a lot of these are HTML tutorials, they're JavaScript tutorials, they're PHP, they're Python, they're Docker tutorials, and Linux tutorials, and MySQL MySQL tutorials, and Jekyll tutorials, and Flask tutorials, and Django tutorials. Yeah, there's tutorials for a lot of things on YouTube, on the channel, the How to Code Well channel. And each tutorial focuses on one thing, right? One thing. So if it's a Linux tutorial, it could be focusing on file permissions. If it's a HTML tutorial, it could be focusing on a select box. If it's a CSS tutorial, it could be talking about positioning, and so on and so forth. So the idea is to have a place where these tutorials are listed in an FAQ style. The idea being is that if a question gets asked on Discord that has already been perhaps answered in the format of a video, or if there is a resource that we are aware of that we can push you to, then what we could do is provide a means of sending people an answer, or signposting that new coder or that coding question to some other resource. So it doesn't have to be my content. I would like it to be my content. And in fact, what I'm going to be using this for is a means of working out what content to do. But we'll do it in an FAQ style. So the idea is that there would be a question, you would click on the question, and it will either reveal the answer in a code snippet, or it will reveal a link that you can click that will answer your question, or perhaps it will reveal a YouTube video that you could watch to answer the question. So where, again, it's going to be a Gatsby site. Again, we're going to use the header menu. I should add one in there for the footer as well. So add a link to the wiki once it's done. Add sections to the homepage. And if we go into the sections, these are the sections I'm thinking of: CSS, JavaScript, HTML, Linux, Docker, Python, and PHP, because these are all the content that I've got at the moment. So there'll be certain sections for each type of coding question, if you will. So we can then go to something like codequestions.howtocodewell.net/CSS/ and then your question. And so the idea is that there is 100 members already in the Discord server. Next year, there could be double, triple, quadruple that amount, hopefully. I would love it to balloon. And there's going to be a time, obviously, when someone asks the same question that someone else has asked. And also there is if it does scale to an enormous level, then there will be potentially different channels for different topics. But we'll wait until that happens. So what I would like to do is sort of build this Code Questions site and tailor make it for the community of the Discord server. This was actually a suggestion. This was a suggestion from one of the Discord members, and it was passed on to me. And me and the moderators talked about it, and it makes sense. It just makes sense to have this sort of resource. And again, it doesn't have to be videos. It doesn't have to be code snippets. It could just be links to things. So if someone says, how do I position this in the top left-hand corner? How do I move this button to the right? How do I make this pink? How do I turn this span into a link? That kind of thing. Those kind of questions, push them to, signpost them to a resource, a video, or something. If we can't answer it there and then. Obviously, in the Discord channel, we would like to answer questions straight away, right? But sometimes that's not always the case. And sometimes when you're answering questions in the Discord server, you can kind of get a little sniff that the person asking some of the questions perhaps needs to have more. That there's a bigger knowledge gap in some areas, like for example security, parameterized queries. Understanding of CSS, JavaScript, and HTML, all of that kind of stuff. So you could answer a question and then suddenly get asked another question and then asked another question and so forth and so forth. Whereas sometimes it's best, which is fine, but sometimes it's best to provide a resource to say, look, this is either a course, this is a video, these are code snippets that will explain far easier, far better than a noisy Discord server, what you're after. And I think that's brilliant. And any question that we can't answer, we add it to this Code Questions thing, right? So then that becomes either content that I produce, or it's a code snippet that one of the members writes to solve this, and then it just gets added, and basically it evolves with the community. And so we end up with this huge glossary at the end of the day of all of these questions and answers about code. And I think that would be a wonderful thing to do. But there's been no code. There's been no code on it yet because I am obviously working on lots of other things. But that is the intention. That is the intention for this. Okay, so that's pretty much those announcements that I want to make. There is another one, and that is around the actual schedule of the streaming. So I this year, when I picked up streaming again, because I had done a lot of streaming before, especially on the on Sundays. I was doing this thing called Coffee and Code, which was great. But and then I dropped it and I went back to YouTube, or I did more of YouTube and stuff. And now I've picked up streaming, and now I've caught the bug again. And I certainly want to continue streaming. However, I think that there is a danger, especially with the fact that I'm a freelancer. I have other commitments. I need to manage my time better. Also, I want to produce more content for YouTube as well. And there's only a finite amount of hours in the day and time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop one stream a week. So normally I stream Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays at 7 in the morning. And then at 14:30, 100 hours here on Sundays. Now that's 4 streams a week. That's an enormous amount of content. That's an enormous amount of stuff that I'm having to do and manage and think about. And that's before we even get to the YouTube stuff, before we get to the podcast stuff, and then before we get to the freelance stuff. So what I would like to do is I would like to drop a Wednesday. So I want to do streaming on a Tuesday, a Thursday, and then here on the Sunday. This means that there is either a day where I can just stay in bed and just chill out, or there is a day where I can spend the same time that I would be here on the stream producing content for YouTube. This isn't me leaving Twitch. No, certainly not. This isn't me leaving Discord at all. Not at all. This is just me trying to manage my time better. And so what I would like to do is build more things for YouTube. And obviously we as you've seen, I've been doing the PHP design patterns course, and I've started up the JavaScript course. These are eventually going to be courses that people can get, right? At some point I'm going to need to do the videoing for these things. So I am going to be probably spending that Tuesday morning doing the videos instead of being on the stream. So it's not like this is me turning my back on things. This is me realizing that next year is going to be super busy and I need to manage my time a lot better. Stalin, if I were to make a Facebook group, it would be named Programmers Against Backend Java. Fair enough. So it'll be from 4 days a week, it'll go down to 3. But we'll still have the Sundays. In fact, we've got into a nice little habit now. We take Murphy out for a nice walk. We come back and we have a nice dinner, and then I come on the stream, and then that's pretty much Sunday done, to be honest. And then after that, after the stream, I have dinner and stuff, and then a chill out in the evening, which is nice. So yeah, I mean, Sundays is still going to happen, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays will happen. Now, as a freelancer, of course, and there are things that are happening next year in the freelance world, in my world, where I'm unsure of timings of things at the minute. So there will be the need, as there has been, to be a little bit flexible. So maybe swapping some days around here and there, but I'll try, as I've always tried to do, to be a little bit more proactive on that. So if I'm aware of this, I will let you lot know before it actually happens, or at least I'll try to. What else is there? I'm sure that I should have written a note of things to talk about. Oh yeah. So the other day I started producing content for a course. I just thought I'll give it an experiment. I've been doing these experiments where I just talk about certain things, and I've been playing around with React. Not as a course, but sort of experimenting with bits and pieces. So I'm not sure whether I'll publish those. They're sort of Gatsby-esque type React type things. I was using them more to teach myself a little bit. Sometimes when you explain things out loud to a camera and then you get it wrong, you have to go back and then redo it again. You're actually teaching yourself as you go. We have obviously the last podcast. I'm glad I remembered this. We have the last podcast of the year next Friday. So the podcast itself, I don't know if anybody's seen that podcast last week. It's been wonderful. It's been absolutely wonderful. This is the first year of the podcast. So the podcast runs every Friday, and I've spoken to some really amazing people this year. If I put in podcast as the command here, podcast, you can see howtocodewell.fm is the podcast, and next week is going to be a Christmas or a new end of year special. So I've asked some of the guests, not all of them, some of the guests, to answer a question, a particular question, and I've created a montage of the answers, and it is, in my opinion, probably one of the best things I've done, I think, in terms of YouTube, in the sense of it's a proud video. I'm very happy with it, which is awesome. So that's coming out next Sunday. Next Friday. I've got a couple of guests to speak to beforehand before I put that out. So I'm hoping I can get that done probably now Tuesday morning. And if you're a Patreon, if you're an early access Patreon, then you'll get that before anybody else does. And then on Friday I'll publish it to the world. And it's a beautiful thing, I think. It's just everybody talking about answering the same question in very, very, very different ways. And then after that, there is a montage of this year, of 2019. And it's a video that I've been playing, just trying to get right. And I've been doing it for such a long time. Like I started this way back this year. And it's brilliant. It's wonderful. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to get all the guests on. And because of timing and stuff, because the idea is that I want this to be a channel trailer for How to Code Well next year. I mean, that's how good I think it is. It's brilliant. I cannot wait. Okay, Stalin Boy's saying that I don't think that back-end JavaScript should be a thing. That's a bit controversial. That kind of poo-poos all of the Node lot. I think it should be a thing. I think it has its uses. Yeah, why not? What's the problem with having JavaScript on the back end? What's the problem with Node.js? I think that's a really good technology, Node. So that is the wiki, that is the code of conduct, that is the code challenges, that is the how to ask a question repo. You can see, looking through all of these, this happened last night. The wiki, and then the footer menus and the code questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a cup of tea, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and tidy up some of these things. I'm going to deal with the wiki, I think, first, because what I would like to do is add some sections in there, or a section in there for live streaming, because what I want to do is add the schedule to the wiki. I think that's important to do. And also there was another issue I discovered during today, and that was that in the code challenges there is a missing button. I tell you what, let's add that as an issue now. If I go to the that's the wiki. I don't want the wiki. I want the code challenges. There we go. So there's a hidden button there, isn't there? I need to sort that out. So let's go into here. Oops, no, let's go into here and then add a new issue. I really need to fix that. That's wrong. I'll do that now, actually. Well, after I do this. So this is fix the button for submit. CS Gaming, there's a problem with that URL. I will sort that out in just a second. Fix the button for the submit code. Submit challenge. I can't spell. There we go. Fix or show. Show the button. This button is hidden. CSS is broken. And we're going to assign that. I'll do that when I get my T. It's a bug in the projects. And we'll put it as version 2 as a milestone. Right, I'm just going to grab, before I jump off, I'm going to put that down there a minute. I'm just going to tidy up this fix Nightbot. Let's sort that out. Come on, log in, thank you. Go to the commands. See, this is why I like having a big screen, because then I can do some various bits and pieces. It was the wiki, that's the broken one. It's because the wiki and the HTTP are together. So let's tidy that up. That was a copy and paste error. Okay, so let's hit submit. Awesome. Let's see if we can try that out. So if I type in wiki in the chat. There we go. Now we've got a clickable button, a clickable link. So the wiki will take you to the wiki, and then the wiki will have various links that you can click. So code of conduct, challenges, and I'm going to add a section about live streaming and have my schedule on there too. Only 1K. Only 1K. Right, I'm going to shoot down, grab a cup of tea, and then I'll come back and I'll sort. First thing I'm going to do is sort that button out, because that should be a button there. And then what I'll do is I will add a section into the wiki for that. So I will speak to you all in a couple of minutes. Put my BRB, because now I've got the Stream Deck working. Woo! So I'll put that on, and then I'll grab a cup of tea, and then I'll be back. I got me tea. I got me tea. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fix this button. This thing here. It's hidden. And then what I'm going to do is I'll bring Murphy in. Because I went downstairs and I just saw Murphy. So, and he's awake. So I'll bring him up once I fix that button. And I'll show you everybody Murphy, if that's all right. Okay, so that's not the right thing. What I want to do, this is co-challenge, isn't it? So let's have a look and see if I have on here co-challenges. Here we go. New window. And we're going to see if we can fix this. If I go to tools, is it tools? No, it's view, isn't it? View, appearance, tool window. I'm looking for the terminal. There we go. If I was to do a git pull of this, hopefully we'll have all the bits and pieces, the package.lock file, the components, they were all added in. Awesome. 692 deletions. Wow. 213 insertions. Wonderful. Let's just close that down. Let's see. I will need to do an npm install. npm install. Come on. I've got fat fingers. Install. There we go. To install all the bits and pieces. Okay, we'll do that now. Fair enough, Kiwi. Fair enough. Okay, has that... No, that's still going. That's still going. Come on. It's taking a long time just to run the install. Here we go. A little bit more. A little bit more. Done. There's an error here. What's the error? It is... Oh, it's that Python error again. I might see if I can fix that, because that's gonna cause some problems, I think. I think that's an npm version issue. It's a problem with my version of Python, actually. Okay, well, it's built. It's built. So let's see if we can at least get this to run. So I'm going to do Gatsby deploy on port 1990. And hopefully, fingers crossed, this will build. Okay, cool. Click on you. There we go. So we have that. It's squished down because there we go, because I have the browser bigger and smaller. So let's see. There is the problem. Submit your challenge is supposed to be a button that is hidden. Now, why is it hidden? Let's go to the web inspector here. Scroll down there. Click on that. That's the header. Why is that? No, that's not the header. That's... Okay, is it in the header? That shouldn't be in the header. Surely not. Some reason I've... Bonus points if you use JavaScript. Okay, so it's not in the header, thank God. Scroll down here. Here we go. So there is blue 500 hover blue state. So for some reason, that to me is a Tailwind issue. It doesn't appear to be adhering to the Tailwind. Oh, BG blue, background blue. Shouldn't that be... No. Okay, let's see if we got anything else that is text white. Let's take that out. So for some reason it's not adhering to the blueness. The blueness. Let's have a look at Tailwind. Let's have a look at links. Pursuit. No. Links. Link. Usage. Building a responsive nav. Toggling the nav bar. Let's just do nav here. Building a nav bar. It's not a nav bar. Navigation. Responsive header. Nope. Tabs. Nope. Stretched. It's a pill, I suppose, isn't it? So it would be this. Inline block. Border blue. So it is BG. Inline block. Okay, let's see if we can copy that. And then go into back where it was. That's not that. Can't find the local one now. So many tabs, not enough time. Okay, let's grab that CSS there, delete all of those things, paste all of that in, and then nope, that's made it worse. All right, so I am wondering whether or not I have the background blue actually set as a argument, because it's not actually just being displayed here, and if I go into Computed, it's certainly not in here either. So I think I've probably broken text white's working, but I think I've broken this background blue, and I've got a feeling it's because if I go to the code, if I go to the tailwind.config, is it because I don't have BG blue in the colors here? I'm slowly building up my own template, so my own theme. So I'm wondering if that's an issue, if it needs to be blue. So I'm wondering if I need to do BG blue and that be something like, let's just put in blue here. No. And was that 500? There was an issue there, wasn't there? There was a number. It wasn't just. It was 500. Whoops. Nope. Okay, let's see if we can rebuild this. I'm going to do this through, if we do a tools, view appearance terminal. What's that key? It is option F12. There we go. Cool. Let's kill that and let's do an rm minus rvf of public. Let's. Oh, I'm gonna have to do that sudo. So I'm not sure if the tailwind. Oh. Thank you. I'm not sure if the tailwind config needs to be rebuilt. We have an error. Unhandled. .json. What? What? And then an update is available. Is it? Have I just broken something? Like, have I just killed? Now run it. No, there is something definitely broken here. All right. That sucks. No such file or directory to open. Code challenges public. There's a public problem with the public directory that I've just removed. Let's also remove cache as well. Come on. So now it's working. Work that out. Work that out. And of course, I've gone and removed all of these things back to what it was. I guess what I could do as a quick win is I could go into CSS and I could create my own CSS, my BG 500 job in here if I wanted to. That would solve that, wouldn't it? Really. And let's have a look at this. It is. But it should be there. It should be there, and it's not. So I want to fix this for going forward. I think, and I'm not sure whether because there isn't the default. I don't know if I've removed. I don't know if that's removing the old configuration. Although, if that was the case, then the other margins and the paddings would be removed as well. So that's not the thing. It's definitely BG. Well, yeah, I copied this whole thing. BG. Yeah. How strange. All right. Let's go and so if I remove the text color, there you go. That's back to pink. Okay. But there's nothing in here about that BG color, which to me suggests that Tailwind, there's something going on with Tailwind. It's not configured. So let me think. That's tailwind.config. If we scroll into post CSS, it is running Tailwind config. So that's set up correctly. If we didn't have this, for instance, that's the default, and that was now rebuilt, and that was refreshed, then we won't have this header because that relies on the theme. So refresh that. There we go. So, okay, let me think. There is the layout dot, whatchamacallit. If I go to the, where are my components? There's the layout CSS. This is importing the global. So if I go to global here, this is what it is. And we are importing base, components, and utilities. Yeah. And then here we're importing the dev icons. Right. So is there anything in here that I am screwing up? No, I don't think so. Okay. Let's just try something. BG blue 500. Let's see if we can just hack it a minute. Let's do background color light blue. There we go. So that's come through. So that's a bit strange. I think what I'll do is I'll split this up into two issues. I think the first issue is that this doesn't work, right? Add submit challenge doesn't work. The second issue is I think there's an issue with Tailwind. So I think I'll probably fix this one, push it live, and then look at the Tailwind issue separately. I think that's probably the best thing to do. It's kind of one of those fixes where it's like, you know, you want to get this fix done, but you know that the fix that you've done isn't as good as it could be, but it's the fix has fixed the issue for the time being. The thing is, what I would like to have is all of these sites conform to, as I mentioned, this Tailwind theme. So what I would like is to look at these fixes as kind of a sort of a fix going forward for all of the sites going forward. So it might take me a bit of time to look at that one, in the respect that this fix is going to be for all sites. Okay. Okay, let's make that a little bit darker, I think. Let's just go to that one for now. It should be a bit darker. Yeah, that's a bit better, in my opinion. Okay, so I'm going to create a new tab. I wish I did this in the actual terminal rather than here. I'm going to do checkout. No, I need to do git checkout -b, and what did we call this? Submit. Let's just do this submit. Okay. What did I change in the Tailwind config? I don't think I did I? Git status. Oh, it was merged. Fair enough. Git add. Git status. There we go. Git commit -m. Adding background color to button. Submit button. Awesome. Hub pull request P. And we're going to go into insert mode here, and we're going to write fixes or closes. No, fixes. We shouldn't do closes. Fixes #10. Come out of that. Right and quit. Off it goes. And I think what I'll do just from here is I'll do a git checkout of master. Let's do a git merge no diff of, what did I call that? Submit. Whoa, no. What am I doing here? Git merge no diff. Have I gone and I'm sure it was no diff. Hang on a minute. Let me just have a look on my laptop here. Git merge. No FF. Ugh. No diff. No FF. Submit. Okay, so let's just close that laptop. Let's go to insert mode, and this will close 10. No, that's the wrong thing. Right and quit. Off we go. Boom. Thank you for following Slayer Darth, and also Marco8137, and also Sam Rat 6192 as well for following as well. I do appreciate that. Marco8137 has said, "So how to code well?" ? Do you have a question? I don't follow. Do you have a question? I'm good, thanks, Slayer. I'm not so bad, thanks. Whoops, I'm better now. I have a cup of tea. Oh, yes, I did. Well, I started streaming like a long time ago, and then I decided against it because I wanted to do more YouTube stuff. But then I picked it up again. I can't remember why. And it's been going for like Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays for the past however many months. and it's been brilliant. It's been brilliant. I've certainly caught the bug. Hi, Sniper Side. Hope you're well. Hope you're well. So, okay. Marco has asked a very interesting question, and this is, what am I working on? So, what I'm doing right now is, this is the last stream of How to Code Well, live stream of How to Code Well for 2019, and we are working through some bits and pieces for the How to Code Well community. We've recently hit 100 members on the Discord server, which is fantastic. And there's channels in there for coding help, and there's channels in there for project feedback and all sorts of other bits and pieces for coders. It's because it's becoming a bit of a community now, a nice community for people to come and ask questions in a nice, safe and welcoming environment. What I've been doing is building some bits and pieces for How to Code Well, such as we've got a wiki here. And if I go to down here, wiki, we've got a code of conduct. These were things that were added last night. So we've got this code of conduct. We also have the how to ask a question as well. So how to format your bits and pieces. And what else? What else was I doing? And what I was just doing was the code challenges. I was putting a fix in for here. So hopefully, has that been pushed up yet? That was merged. Let's do a git push. Oh, sorry. I need to sort that out. That should be HTTPS. Okay, I will. Let me push this up first. And then let's see. Do I have? Discord. Yes, you're right. Let me change that now. Good spot. HTTPS. HTTPS. Going to just check the other ones as well. So coding challenges is okay. The code of conduct is okay. The Discord is now okay. How to ask a question needs to be fixed, because that's now fixed. Merch is okay. Podcast needs to be fixed. That's HTTP. Gosh, I dropped the ball on this one, didn't I? Submit. And yep, podcast, wiki, yep, and the YouTube. Well, that's just YouTube. Yeah, awesome. Okay, sorry about that. That is now sorted out. So hopefully, if we did Discord, we should now have a HTTPS Discord. Cool. Okay. And we've now got our submit button, so that's just been pushed up to production. Sweet. So that should now work for everybody else as well. Slayer Darth has asked, what operating system do I use? At the moment, this is Mac OS. It's not the latest one because I'm terrified to use that because there's so much negative things I've heard with the latest Mac OS. On my laptop, I use Mac OS. I've got another box behind me that is Mac OS, but I've also got Linux boxes. I'm also heavy into Docker, so I build lots of things in various different containers using different flavors of things. I used to work solely on Linux Mint, and before that it was Ubuntu, Fedora, Red Hat, OpenSUSE I played with, Gentoo, and then before that it was Windows. So I've kind of progressed, I guess. Well, I wouldn't say progressed. No, because that's sounding nasty for people who are on those operating systems. No, I wouldn't say it's progression. I would say it's sort of like you build what you use, what you need to use at the time. And the reason why I went to Mac OS, of course, is because I was doing mobile applications, and the mobile applications were for iOS, and therefore I needed to have Mac OS in order for Xcode to run. So that was why I did it. So yeah. However, there is a part of me that's like thinking that Windows has moved on so much, and I haven't used Windows in such a long time that I really should just have a look at it. Just have a little look at it and see what has changed since the XP days when I used to use it. I'm pretty sure that a lot has changed since then. I would at least hope so. Yes, Fryzig has asked, can I explain what Docker is? I never quite understand it when I Google. Yes, I will do. Definitely. Marco is saying that he's 20-year Linux dev. Awesome. That's awesome. And Slayer Darth, now you use Windows 10 both at home and work. Awesome. With Windows, I guess do you use VS Code for that? Yeah, it's nice to be comfortable with all the flavors of the operating systems. Let's talk about Docker, as was asked by Fryzig. So Docker is it's a containerization technology, and what that means is that you can isolate parts of the infrastructure into small little containers that can be scaled, replicated, and reused. I'll just grab a cup of tea. So I tell you what I'll do, if everybody's okay with it, I'll just bring something up just to answer this question. So I've done I shouldn't say many talks. I've done a couple of talks this year on Docker. So I'm going to try and find my Docker talks. Bear with me just a second. Where was that? That was WordPress. Yeah, that'll do. That one's good. Let's bring that one up. We'll go through a quick talk that I gave about Docker and WordPress, if that's okay. Just quickly. So let's see if I can get this spun up. So let's do a tools terminal, and let's do this is all already in dist. Awesome. Let's go to here then, and let's open that up in a browser. Awesome. Okay, so this is a talk that I gave earlier this year, Docker for WordPress developers. I hope that this has been updated since the last time I played it with it on the laptop. But anyway, we'll go through it. I'll go through it like I'll try. There might be parts of this that I'll need to skip over, but just for time. But anyway, Docker for WordPress developers. So I asked how many have heard of Docker, how many of you used WordPress and Docker. We'll skip over that. So what is Docker? That's essentially what you're asking. So this is where things work. Have you ever seen people say or heard people say it works on my machine, and then we'll ship your machine? And that was how Docker was born. So the idea is that you can build and replicate containers that mimic the environment of production and other parts of other staging services. So if you've got a testing service, if you've got a sort of a user acceptance sort of infrastructure, or production, you can replicate those things, and you can do so on your local machine. It's a containerization technology which splits up your application into multiple containers, where each container has a single responsibility, and each container can be duplicated. It has three main parts, Docker. The first one is the client, the second one is the API, and the third one is the Docker engine. So I use Docker Machine a lot to create different machines for different projects. I'm a freelancer, so a lot of my projects are very different in things in terms of they're very different in terms of configuration. And this could even be different versions of PHP and different versions of libraries and other bits and pieces like that. And this was a talk for WordPress developers. So you may have different versions of WordPress requiring different things and different setups and configuration and ini files and all of that jazz, as well as different setups for virtual hosts. So it's a way of creating little virtual machines. This is a Docker machine that has the engine on it and the API, and then you can write or run commands against Docker using the command line interface or other things that talk to the engine through the API. The client is the command line interface or a desktop GUI perhaps. So for example, you might have Docker integrated into your VS Code or your PHP Storm. So that's the client. It's issuing those commands to the engine via the API. There's also web-based stuff as well. The Docker API is, as I mentioned, it's the communication layer. The engine is the back end of Docker, which handles all of the Docker objects, networks, containers, images, volumes, and there's far more than just that. So these are individual objects that Docker has. A Docker container is built from a Docker image. So this is now talking about what the images are. So you have a Docker container, you have a Docker image, and you have a Docker file. So the Docker file is the instructions that build the image. The image then creates the container. However, a Docker image is made from many cached intermediate images, and this is why Docker is so quick. However, Slayer Darth has just mentioned that Docker is a nightmare to work on Windows. I've never used Docker on Windows, so I don't know, but I would imagine it would be. Docker image is made from small little cached image layers, and we'll talk about those in just a second. So a Docker file is a set of build instructions. In my opinion, I think that baking a Docker container is a bit like baking cookies. So a Docker image is the baked ingredients. The Docker file is the recipe of those ingredients. What is the difference between virtual machines and containers? This is a common question. So what is the difference between virtual machines and containers? Because surely containers are just lightweight virtual machines, right? Well, containerization isn't virtualization. It's very different. Virtualization, in my opinion, is a bit like a house where you have allocated upfront resources. So when you go and buy a house, you buy a house knowing how many bedrooms there are, how many bathrooms there are, how many kitchens and living rooms and hallways and doors there are. With containerization, it's different. With containerization, it's more like this is just the room, and then you could have more rooms, right? You can scale those rooms. You could add the same room and replicate that room. Therefore they have different levels of abstraction. Therefore they have different ways and uses. So with virtualization, it's a custom environment with allocated resources. It is itself an ecosystem. In fact, you have to create a guest operating system for virtualization. Whereas containerization is a single process, a single responsibility, and therefore a container should have a single purpose. So you could even go down as far as saying that you have a container just for PHP and a container for either Nginx or maybe Apache. By going down that far, what you're doing is you're decoupling the context that your container has and the responsibility and the control of that container. So for example, let's say you wanted to change the version of PHP. Well, you could do that by switching out your container of PHP to a different version. Or let's say you wanted to change you wanted to go from Apache to Nginx. Well, instead of changing the whole web server, you would just change those containers. So Docker can be used definitely with continuous integration. So then this is more about the how to use Docker with WordPress. So this is how you can create a machine. So you do Docker machine create WordPress install. This will actually build you a small virtual machine with the Docker engine installed. You then run Docker machine env WordPress install. You evaluate those environment variables to your current shell. And then this is what a Docker file looks like. This is the Docker file that runs PHP and Apache. So PHP and Apache, and then you've got the run instructions here. So each of these instructions will be a cached image, right? Which means that because they're cached, it means that unless they've been changed, those instructions, they won't have to be ran again. Which is great. This is why you have the double ampersand and the slash at the end, because what you're doing is you're grouping everything together into a single instruction. So it'll run those, and then it'll add some environment variables, add the virtual host. There's a bit there for running Composer, installing that. And then finally we're copying everything from the current working directory over to var www.html. Docker Compose, as been mentioned on the chat, this is how you structure your infrastructure. You structure your infrastructure. This is how you structure your containers and how they hang together. This is how you inject configuration into the containers. So usually you've got versions, networks, volumes, and services. Services being the containers. So the version here is 3.7, but that might be different. You define your networks in the network piece and the volumes in the volume piece. I've got tutorials and courses on Docker. I got loads of them on the YouTube channel, and also I've got the Docker in Motion course as well, which explains all of this and actually goes through a whole project with this. The Docker in Motion course, by the way, is linked below in the channel. And then here you've got the services. So here we were splitting up Apache and MySQL. So with Apache, this is how it is configured. And with MySQL, that's how that was configured. Here I've passed in a .env file, and we're networking these two together. So down where we got networks, we put in the WordPress network, and then we've got the volumes, and then this is the command that you run to build those containers, and then that's how you will install install WordPress through Composer. This is how you create the WP config file from Composer, and so on and so forth. So I hope that kind of answered what Docker is. I hope that helped. Freizig. I've skipped over a lot of stuff, but I hope that made a little bit of sense. But do consider joining the Discord server though, because I'm a Docker fanboy, as you can probably tell, and I'm more than happy to answer questions. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. The WP, as Slayer Darth has mentioned, the WP CLI is such an invaluable tool. It is. It's weird that it is the WP CLI and not actually a Composer console, but whatever. It is good. I'm glad they added it. Okay, I've kind of not seen the chat for a bit because I've been chatting away, so let me just go through it. Okay, so Slayer Darth is saying that getting the Docker for Windows GUI working is the hyper... Right, gotcha. Yeah, so it's can conflict with Hyper-V. So Slayer Darth says he uses Vagrant more. So I attempted to use Vagrant, but it didn't work for me, as in it just took so long. And there was very difficulty using things like networking and also volumes, and also I couldn't easily replicate and push up the changes to production. So what I like doing with Docker is I like trying to replicate production as much as I possibly can do, and then inject the differences between my development machine and the production using Docker Compose and the environment variables and bits and pieces like that. And also, without overcomplicating things, there's this thing in Docker called multi-stage builds where you can target different images that are in your Docker file. So you could, if you wanted to, create a base image for your project, and then you could have, and you could extend from that base image to a particular development target, and then a testing target and a production target. So basically, you're adding layers upon layers to get it to production, and then you target that using Docker Compose, which means that if I wanted to, I could have both the testing, the staging site, and also the development site and the production site running on my local box together, just by switching the target, which is super cool. I need some tea. And I also promised Murphy. Who would like to see my dog? Murphy. Who would like to see Murphy? I won't show Murphy unless you say. That's correct, Slayedarth. Yeah, that's correct. They're different. Well, I wouldn't say deployment instructions. These are different images that are geared towards different environments. Yeah. Okay, I'll go and get Murphy. It's also an excuse to get another tea. Right, I will pop down. I'll grab Murphy. I'll put the kettle on. I'll come back up, and then once I've shown Murphy, I will continue working through the code for. It was the wiki. That's what I wanted to do. So yes, I will be back. Do I have anything about Murphy Brown? So Tyrannad's asked, do I have anything about Docker in production? Do you mean in terms of a blog or a talk? I don't have a talk on Docker in production. However, that is such a good title for a talk. Docker in production. Yeah. Because it depends really on what production is, because I've deployed to production AWS, and I've deployed to production Linode and other bits and pieces, and they're all different. Yeah, that would be good. I think I'll put that in the ideas pot. I think that's a very good talk. I'm looking for new talks, by the way. Talk to talk. Right, I'm going to grab Murphy. Bear with me just a second. So, it's Murphy time. Murphy, up. Bear with me a minute. Hey, buddy. Okay. It's Murphy. Hello, buddy. Hello. Hello. So, Sniper Side has said, isn't Docker in production the same as in development? Whoop. Yeah, but yeah, it is. But you would inject different configuration rules. Whoop. Good boy. So, for example, you may have things in production that you don't have in development, such as Xcode and other sort of monitoring tools. So, well, with development and testing, you would have Xcode to test and monitor. What's up, buddy? Do you want to come up again? And you wouldn't have Xcode in production. And that's something that you would have to install. So, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you chomping on a treat? You chomping on a treat? Yes. Mm. Come on then. Good boy. That's correct. Yes. Yes. Yes, that's correct. That's definitely correct. In fact, one thing that you do with PHP is that you when you dump the autoloader when you're in production, but you don't dump the autoloader in development, because if you're dumping the autoloader, you're creating it. You're creating a static set of autoloaded files. And if those files change, as they would in development, then you would have to redump that. So you don't dump it in development, but you do in production. And dumping the autoloader, it makes things a lot faster because that gets saved to bytecode. What are you doing? Yeah. Do you want to say goodbye? Do you want to say goodbye? Come on. Come on, buddy. Come on, buddy. Right. Murphy wishes everybody a happy new year. Don't you, buddy? And happy holidays. I'm going to put him back. But I think he wants to go back to sleep. Go on then. Go on then. He's a cutie. He's a cutie. Yes, so with there's various things that you might not want to have in production in terms of the packages that you're using. So, for example, you would have things in your required dev in Composer. The same you would have for Ruby. The same you would have for your Node, your NPM packages. So you would have your dev dependencies. You wouldn't have those in production. Therefore, you need to have some sort of layering to take that, to change that. But the base infrastructure, you know, the maybe it's the operating system or the the base set of security bits and pieces, they can all be the same, or the base packages and extensions. Certainly the version of PHP can be the same. Docker, for me, was a godsend. It really was. Because I before I learned Docker, I was doing everything in LAMP stacks. Yes, Stalin boy, you did. The pupper has gone back downstairs to sleep. I'm sorry you missed him. Yes, so you can carve up essentially your containers, your images to suit different environments, and then you can target those using your in Docker Compose. You can target which one you want to use, which is really, really, really handy. I have just realized I've left my tea downstairs, which is annoying. But what I want to do, let's go back to the code. Let's go back to the code. We have just fixed it was the code challenges, wasn't it? It was the code challenges. That should now be a blue link that when you click it should go to the Discord bit, the Discord page. So if we click on that, it should take you to howtocodewell.net/Discord, where you can either join for free, or you can either do join for $10 a month. That will give you access to the town hall and also the pro user chat channel, plus early access, and you get a sticker welcome pack. If, however, you join for $2 a month, then you don't get access to the podcast and videos on an early access basis. And remember, we have the podcast end of year special, the New Year special next Friday, and I'm hoping that I can get that all edited and encoded and up Tuesday Tuesday time, I hope. Yeah, town hall. The town hall. Cool. So that, by the way, FYI is just if anybody's interested, is that link there. So we've now got that in place there. Submit your challenge, and the idea is that there is on the Discord server there is a code challenges channel that people will submit their code challenges to every month. Last month was the November challenge. We had 3 challenges submit their challenge, and I did a live review of those challenges and then put that up onto YouTube. And that's how I want this code challenges to do. Yes, Slayer Darth, I definitely do I do tutorials on the JavaScript ecosystem, definitely. So in fact, this is built in Gatsby, this site. In fact, all of these sites are built in Gatsby. So the wiki here, this is wiki.howtocodewell.net. How to ask a question.howtocodewell.net is built in Gatsby. And the code of conduct is also in Gatsby as well. These are all subdomains. The podcast itself is built in Sculpin, which I'm going to be converting to Gatsby next year. If I have a chance, I'm sure I will. I hope. It's actually on my things to do here. If I go to howtocodewell.fm, if we go to issues, there is an issue called Convert to Gatsby. And I will be doing this live. So, yeah. So, you know what? This actually, so Sculpin is a PHP static site generator, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's just I want to move things to more of a React Gatsby kind of ecosystem, where I can create my own React components. In fact, we now starting to have a bunch of public NPM packages that are built in React. So we've got the How to Code Well header and the footer. This is the header. this is the footer. So when I spin up one of these sites, it is relatively straightforward for me to apply different components. And of course, we're going to have a lot of components, because if we go to the podcast, we can see if that, these are all the guests that have been on. So we're going to need a component for the guests. This is the schedule, so we're going to need a component for all of these things. Component for the actual player. Lots and lots of components for these. Loads and loads of things. So I'm hoping that that by the end of it, we'll have lots and lots of different NPM components that I can just sort of juggle together, I guess, and share and use, and of course, and reuse them. Because of course, if I go back to wherever that link's gone here, let's say, for example, I'll pick on one. Let's pick on Jenna Charlton, for instance. Scroll down to the bottom. There is the YouTube video of the interview between me and Jenna. So that is going to be a component, and that component is going to be used in all. So that was Adam Culp's one that I did. That will also be used for the other things as well. So the other things being the actual courses site. So if I go over to let's go over to, what am I looking for? I'm looking for something. Wiki. There we go. Let's go back to the wiki. Let's say we want to go to the courses site. These are all the courses, and there are, this site needs a lot of work, to be honest. A lot of work. It needs to just be rebuilt. But these are courses that have this component, right? So I could reuse this. So this is, by FYI, this is one of the Docker courses that I've done. So, like, for example, let's take a look at handling Docker volumes, for instance. Just play that and off you go. So all of this will be componentized. Slayer Dar says, are they all open sourced? No. So these are, sure. The courses themselves. So that's a very good question. So this is open source, certainly. The podcast is open source. The website itself, howtocodewell.net, isn't open source. The courses themselves, the future courses, won't be open source, because what I want to do is provide the code to the people who get the course as an incentive to get the course, right? So, and if you've seen any of the PHP design pattern stuff that I'm doing, what I've tried to do is I've tried to design the course live on Twitch. And then, so that's my sort of like, the free thing to the community. And then what I try and do is, or what the plan is to, once I've come up with the design of the course, I will then record it cleanly on YouTube, cleanly here, and then that will go off to various other places. It could be YouTube or wherever that isn't open source, because it's going to be part of a package for the course. However, as I mentioned earlier on in this stream, I've got probably over 400 videos on YouTube, and most of them are tutorials, and all of them are free. Well, most of them are free. I shouldn't say all of them. Most of them are. So, these are free, for instance, right? You've got these that are, you can purchase through, say, Udemy or Skillshare. I really need to sort this out. This is a terrible site. But then these here are free. So, getting Linux Bash for beginners, Python beginner tutorials, Docker tutorials, and there are so many more. The problem with this site is I built it in not a hurry, but I built it because I needed a site. And then the freelance work happened, and I had to leave this, unfortunately. So next year, I'm intending on building this platform. And I want to build the most part of it in Gatsby. I want Gatsby as the front end. I want and split up into individual React components, which probably won't make sense for their component to be on its own, right? So they will rely on other components and so on and so forth. So be very specific to this. It will have a API, and that API will probably be built in Symfony or Lumen. I've got APIs already that are built in various different things and even different languages, some in Python. But essentially what I want to try and do next year is consolidate all of these into some nice sort of concise bits and pieces. And like we've got at How to Code Well here as the organization of NPM, we also have this in Packagist as well. So I'm going to be hopefully building my own composer packages specifically for How to Code Well. And also we also have the How to Code Well organization set up for the Docker Hub. So I want to build Docker images that will be able to spin up these bits and pieces at a moment's notice. Essentially, next year I want to be in a position where I'm building these little bits and pieces that are like the jigsaw puzzle. I know what the picture looks like. I just need to build the pieces. That's essentially what I want to do, whilst I am building the courses. So there's 2 courses at the moment that I'm doing. There is the PHP Design Patterns course, which is, oh my word, it's going to be a big course, because that's going through all the object-oriented design patterns in PHP, behavioral, creational, and structural. There is also another course that is the JavaScript Fundamentals course, so these are sort of like quote unquote premium courses, I guess you would call them. And attached to that, we have not only the code that I will give to the student, but there is also the slides. The slides being what I use to actually do the recording on, so they can take those away. But also, each one is going to have their own little website that they can spin up. So there's a lot of work involved. Yes. So Stalin Boyce mentioned, does all API needs to be considered? Does all? Yes. So you don't have to return JSON. You could return other things if you want, like XML or even HTML if you desired, but most of it is in JSON or XML. With what we're doing here with the Gatsby stuff, it's probably mostly going to be JSON, and it's probably going to be both during build time and also done via Ajax. So there's going to be a lot of work involved around local storage to store credentials and other bits and pieces like that. There's also going to be other bits and pieces where the APIs are being called during the build of these bits and bobs. So I may be creating some random API endpoints next year just to do various bits and pieces. One potential is the menus here. So if I go back, let's get rid of that for a minute. If I go back to GitHub, which I'm on, if we go to, I don't know, let's click on one of these things here and click on that one here. So this header and this footer is a React component, right? And these React components are these 2, and this is the footer. And the footer is configured using JSON, statically configured using JSON, but there's no reason why this couldn't be returned via a API during build time, which means that there's no reason why I can't create a content management system which is headless. So it's offering the front end the API, where I can type in and adjust and delete and add different portions of the menu. This here, so we've got left, we've got middle, and we've got right. These correspond to the left, the middle, and the right. So this is an NPM package that is now inside the wiki, the code of conduct, the how to ask a question, and the code challenges. Which means that I could, if I wanted to, create a content management system which is headless, which can control that. So every time it gets built, it would then call out to the API, get the new links. Same with the header here. So there's all sorts of really interesting projects that I have in my Trello board. Yes. So Slayer Darth REST APIs. Not all the time. They don't have to always query databases. I've created REST APIs that query. They query resources. So, for instance, they could be querying whether or not there are certain files available. I've done a REST API which you call internally, which is locked down, that clears caches, that runs bits and pieces in the background, runs reports, or just communicates from one server to the next. But I appreciate that on the face of it, a REST API mostly does data manipulation. Yeah. So and the way I want, so the way this is structured, so you got the header component, the footer component, I will be following that same methodology, or is that the right word, methodology? I'll be following that same sort of way of thinking, shall we say, when it comes to the Symfony components for the content management system, or the API, or if it's Lumen, or what have you. I haven't quite decided yet on what technology I want to play with there, but yeah. So they will be their own components. Even the API client will be its own component. Right. I want to fix something, don't I? There is a bug. There is a bug. Well, no, it's not a bug. It's the wiki. I want to add a section into the wiki. So we want to come out of here. This is the talk. Let's remove the talk. It is the code. That's the code challenges. I would like to open up the wiki, and I don't think I've got the wiki. I don't have the wiki here, because the wiki I did on the laptop. So I need to pull this down. I was doing all of these things last night whilst drinking beer. So let's go into the how to code well. Let's do an ls. Let's just take that down, because there's a couple of projects in there I probably don't want to show. Let's do an ls, because these are sort of half-baked things. Code conduct. Yeah, okay, I will do a git clone. Actually, let's just clear down the screen, make a little bit of room. There we go. Right, so I will, do a git clone of the wiki. Cool. I've just shown you my messy folder structure. And then, right, so we're in the wiki here. If we did an ls, we can see that we have our bits and pieces. I need to do obviously a node install, but I just want to show you, just to prove to you that this is working. We go to the package.json, scroll up here. There is the how to code well footer and the how to code well header. So obviously you can see I was changing that quite a bit. That was the first one I was playing with. So if I did a npm install, we should install all of those bits and pieces. And what I would like to do, I should really mark this. On each of these, there's also an edit. So you click on edit and you go straight to the GitHub repo. So what I would like to do is add another section, either in here or another whole page, specifically about live streaming. I want to have a link to Twitch, and I also want to have a place where I can put the schedule. Because I mentioned before that I am changing my stream times for next year, or at least I'm dropping a stream a week for next year. So I want to I want to record that somewhere. And it being a wiki, this is where you dump information about things. And the How to Code Well community, I think, needs to have a wiki. So what I'm going to do is create an issue in here. We've got add meta and description. That's fine. So this is going to be add section 4 live. I'm going to call it live streaming. It is documentation. It is also an enhancement. I haven't set up projects yet, and that's not right, but we'll leave that as versions. That's fine. Okay, so there we go. We've submitted that. I just want to edit this and put in add times for streams, add times and dates for streams. Okay, so this is going to be Tuesday at 0700 GMT, and then I'm not doing the Wednesday stream, I'm doing the Thursday at 07 GMT, and I'm also doing the Sunday at 1430 GMT. There we go. Hi Waddle, thank you for joining. You have missed Murphy, unfortunately. He was on the stream. He taught me a load about code. He was looking at my bugs. I hope you're well, Waddle. I hope you're well. And what we're doing is we're just tidying up the wiki. By adding a new section in here for live streaming. So that's gone through okay, which means that I should be able to run Gatsby develop. We're going to do it on port 91, I think, for this one. Just because what I was finding was last night when I was sat drinking beer, watching Star Trek Voyager whilst building these sites, I was getting very confused with the ports. There was like 3 sites I was building at once, and there was a port that was like shared, and it was getting really, really confusing, especially if you cancelled one and then span that up again using the same port you used previously. The browser got cached and it just fell apart. So by having separate ports for these things when you're building it and developing it, it's always a win. Okay, I wish that was a link, but it's not. So I'm going to grab that, and we're going to go into here, and I'm going to paste that in. There we go. That's the local version of the wiki. So the idea is I want to have either a link here that says live streaming that will take you to another page about live streaming. I don't want to have this just be a humongous list of lists. In fact, what I'm thinking of in the future is actually having this as a proper sort of proper sections, sort of like even done in Flexbox. So you have a code of conduct here. You've got, and then by the side of it, you've got code challenges. By the side of it, you've got courses, and actually make it look like a decent thing rather than just a dump of links. But You know, you got to have an MVP. You got to start somewhere, right? Anywho, so that's now in. That is the Code Challenges site. That's not what I want. I would like to bring up the wiki. Bring up the wiki. So, file open. No. File open. There's no shortcut for that. That's very annoying. That's very, very annoying. Okay, so let's bring that up. So that is in the wiki. There we go. Let's do this window. So you can see here that it is just the README file that gets that gets put inside the main page, right? So the README is Markdown, and then what Gatsby does is it takes that and then puts that inside the index page. So if I go pages index.json, it's then taking the first one, so we're limiting it by one, and then we're putting it in here. And I've just noticed that it shouldn't really be in the header, but whatever. Whatever. And then, so if I want to create other pages, then down here in here we can supply the template, which is the doc template here, sure. And I just want to double check, have I set up the config right? That's not the right config. That's not the right config. Clicking around now. This. It should be coming from Markdown pages and then the directory there. So let me think about this. I've got a feeling what I want to do is create Markdown. What was it? Markdown hyphen pages, isn't it? I want to create a folder in there. In fact, what I'm going to do before I even do any of this stuff is I need to create a Git branch, don't I? I need to do a Git checkout -b, and what was the branch name? It was, click on edit, you go to issues, go to, it was 8, and it added a section for live streaming. So let's just do live streaming section. Sweet. So we should have switched to that branch. Why are you not saying that you've switched to that branch? That's saying it switched to branch. This is not saying it switched to branch. There we go. Now it's switched. Right. Markdown pages. And in there, I'm going to create a new Markdown file. Let's just copy the README, for instance. And we're just going to put down here live-streaming. This is going to be /live streaming as the path. What is the date today? The date is the 22nd, obviously, because this is the last stream of the year. This is going to be called live streaming. We're going to have a section in here called timetable. So we're just going to have how to code. Well, usually streams weekdays, Tuesday, I'm dropping the Wednesday stream, Thursday, at 0700 GMT, and Sundays at, I don't think I need a comma there, at 14:30 GMT. Save. Okay, so that's the timetable. Live coding streams happen on Twitch, and we're going to have a link to Twitch. which is https and it is twitch.tv/how to code. Well, there we go. Okay, so that's that page created. So I need to somehow link to that, don't I? So let's in the README in here. Let's go to that view here, the wiki. Let's do code of conduct, courses, how to ask a question, and then let's just add a link in here called live streaming. Live streaming. And this is going to go to /live streaming, hopefully. Right. Okay, I've done a lot of change. You can see that this is in watch mode because it's doing a lot of bits and pieces up here. Let's just see what that has resulted in. Let's go to localhost 1990. Let's just refresh the page. There is an error here. So on doc template on line 6, something has gone bang. What I usually do at this stage, because even though it says success here, is I rebuild it. So, and occasionally you have to, unfortunately, remove the cache file. And then deploy it again. I've noticed that sometimes Gatsby gets a little bit confused, and especially when you're actually sort of like hacking up how pages are rendered rather than what the pages contain. So let's see. See that has built, right? We have this error. Well, this warning. It's not an error. There hasn't been any other errors here. So if I refreshed here, it comes back. So you see what I mean? That sometimes when it says it doesn't work, it is working. It's just you've changed something and it hasn't actually rebuilt it from scratch, which is a pain. So anyway, whatever. So let's click on live streaming. That goes to a 404 page because live streaming can't be found. So this is probably because if we do live streaming here, let me just make sure that there is the correct path. Yes, it is. It can't resolve that. There must be a problem. There must be well, there is a problem, isn't there? There must be an issue with how this is built. And I believe it is due to the node. No, the config. This is pointing to MD, and I don't think that's right. If we go to, say, the Coding Challenges site, which is more like this one because there are multiple pages. If we go on to the README file, you've got the Gatsby README. And the actual files themselves are in here. 2020 and 2019, and then you have the page itself. So I've got a feeling that I need to somehow create a rule for the README file and a rule for the other files that I want. So if I did the path to that is markdown pages, really. That's rebuilding. Let's refresh. So that's still okay. If I clicked on live streaming, you can still get a 404. I'm just not convinced that that has actually worked. Let's develop it again. See, now you got an error. So the path to the Gatsby source file does not exist on your file system. Wiki Markdown pages. Please pick a path to an existing directory. This needs to be src, I believe. If I go to coding challenges down here, and if I compare the configuration, there we go. So if we scroll to the bottom, we have src Markdown pages. All right, so that's what I need. src Markdown pages. I thought that was the case. So just put in src here and run that. Come on. Now it's probably going to break because of the README file is buggered. But let's see. Yeah, so that's now going to the live streaming. That's the page that we've just created. But if I go back to the wiki, as in, you see now that's picked out as the home page. So maybe I should put the README in here in Markdown. That would make life a lot easier, wouldn't it? And then have the README as actually how to build the site as a normal README would. So here you would have a new file. Well, let's just copy README up here, and that would be index.md. Index.md would be here. So let's see if that works. Yes, so there we go. We're back to the index page. And if I clicked on courses, we should... No, not courses. What am I doing? Live streaming. Should go to that page. Yes. And that's broken. Why is that broken? Okay, that's interesting. So that was from live streaming, and then I pressed back. Okay, no, that is working. It was just having a bit of a funny 5. Okay, which means that the README file is slightly different. Maybe the README file should just be how to build the wiki rather than, installing it and everything like that, like a proper README file, rather than being the home page. That would probably be better, I think, going forward. But we are changing the context of the bug that we're working in. So let's just compare or roll back that README. Oh, no. What am I doing? I don't want to roll back because there's a link that we've added there. There we go. Sorry. Okay, so we click on live streaming. We go here. I need to tidy this up, man. This is not acceptable in my opinion. That's a header, and it doesn't look like a header, does it? So I need to, and this I think is the problem with the Tailwind Tailwind configuration that I've screwed up. But anyway, we've done what we've set out to achieve. So I'm going to come out of this. I'm going to do a git status. What have we changed? Why have we changed? We've changed the README because we've changed the we've changed the README because we've added the link. We've changed the Gatsby config.js because we've changed the path. That's right, and we've added the live streaming. So there we go. Oh, and we added the index. Oh, the index is up here, isn't it? Right. Git add README Gatsby and src Markdown live streaming. Okay, git status. Wonderful. Git commit minus m. Adding live streaming page. Okay, hub pull request -p. And let's go into insert mode. This fixes. What does it fix? It fixes #8. Okay, let's come out of you. Right, and quit this. Cool. For anybody who doesn't know, Stalin Boy is Kiwi in the Discord server. All right, and Kiwi likes his kiwis. I would just keep trying, Stalin Boy. You know, the struggle is real and everything. You should persist. Yeah, it's almost 2020. It's crazy, isn't it, to think that 20 years ago, what did I do back in 2000? I finished school in 2000. That's nuts. Yeah, I finished school, and I went to do my first. I went to do the HNC, and before I get into this thing, because I do want to talk about it, I think let me just do a git push on this. But yeah, I failed maths. I failed GCSE maths, and there was a part where I wasn't going to be a programmer because, well, let me do a git push. So let's do I've just done a push of that pull request. Now I could either tinker with it on the GitHub, but let's just go into let's just check out master mo. Let's then do a git merge no ff. Is it no f? Oh, I'm forgetting what it is now. Bear with me a minute. What is that? Is it git merge? Yeah, no ff. No ff, that's right. No ff, and then the branch name, which in this case is live-stream Ming section. And we're going to close eight. Whoops, 8. Right, quit. Boom. Yeah, mind-blowing. So, yeah, I went from school, high school. I did a HNC in information communication technology. It was a very broad topic. This was way back in 2000, and this covered everything from accounting to fixing computers to actually fixing hardware, tinkering around, building computers, to programming, to access databases and stuff like that. In order for me to get that place in that on the HNC, which is the Higher National Certificate, so we're not even talking degrees or diplomas here. In order to get to that point, I had to retake math because I failed math in GCSE. I scraped by with a C. Okay, so I'm terrible at math. I'm dyslexic, and I'll talk about that in just a second because that was annoying. How I found that out, and then that was a 2-year course, and I passed that course, and then I followed that up with a HND, so not a degree, a Higher National Diploma. So this was a diploma in Business Information Technology, and this was. I think the Business Information Technology is where I did the accounting. But we also did feasibility studies, and we also did systems analysis, and we also did other programming languages and stuff like that. And then after that, I did a degree in web development. It was e-commerce and multimedia. So what I did is I sort of narrowed down the field of view in terms of what type of IT stuff I want to do. Because when I came out of school 20 years ago, I had no idea what I wanted to do. No idea. I knew I wanted to do something with computers, but you tell a kid at that age, here's a book of all your possibilities, the UCAS book. Here's a book of all of the possibilities of what you could be when you're older. I had no idea. It was actually very daunting. It was kind of like stick your finger in the air type thing and see where the wind blows. So I took that as an opportunity to scale down and sort of like, go through a series of courses where I was able to dismiss certain things. Like accounting was boring. Like didn't want to do that. Fixing hardware, that was infuriating when things went wrong. Because with programming, and this is what I quickly discovered, when things go wrong in programming, you are the one to blame because you haven't done it logically right. Yeah? So you haven't adopted the right standards, or you haven't adopted the right methodology, the way of doing things. And the feedback loop of programming is so small. These days we just refresh the page and see the change. Whereas with hardware, it's infuriating when you build something and it just doesn't work. And you're like, why? Why doesn't it work? And also, my business studies teacher at school, so this was back at school, he said something which has stuck with me, and that is software sells the hardware. Because you're not going to just buy a bunch of PlayStations without buying the games. It's the games that sell the PlayStations or the Xboxes or whatever. So the software sells the hardware. Without software, your hardware for IT is pointless. So that's why I chose the software route. There's a lot that I can thank a lot of people for giving me that sort of push in the right directions. And I don't think at the time they really appreciated how much of an influence they were to me. Like my lectures and my previous teachers and stuff. But the stuff they said had stuck, and it was great. It was great. So then after university, I then got a job like straight afterwards. In fact, I had to take graduation offers holiday, which was cool. But for all of that, ever since school, I've always worked as a freelancer, doing bits on the side, and it slowly got to a point where I had to drop working full time to work on the freelance projects full time. So that's the story. Yeah, it's crazy. I think that a lot of people are having this reflective period of where they were 2 decades ago and where they could be in 2 decades' time. If you think of how far you've gone in 2 decades, think of where you could be in 2 decades' time. That's incredible. And even thinking about where you would be in 1 decade time, in 10 years, or in 5 years, is nuts. If I was to think about the way How to Code Well has gone, there's been lots of times in the last 3 years where I've wanted to give up How to Code Well because I had creator burnout, or I couldn't see it being what I wanted it to be, or I didn't know what I wanted it to be, and it was infuriating, or I had to spend time on other things and my time management wasn't as good as it is now. So but I persevered, and we now have a community which is very strong in the Discord server that I couldn't be any happier with. So, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it, Stalin Boy? I'm getting so far and so in such a small piece of time. It's a great feeling. So this is being pushed up. I think has it been pushed up? Well, it's been merged. So I need to do a git push of origin, origin, and I can't spell origin. There's my dyslexia. Origin and then master. So I was diagnosed with dyslexia. And there's other health issues that I'm not even going to even talk about here. But I was diagnosed with dyslexia 3 weeks before I joined university. It came in as a thing that everybody needed to be tested in. It was one of these sort of things, I think, that came down from government or something like that, that every child needed to be tested for dyslexia or something. And so my lecturers were like, you've got to take this test, to everybody. However, depending on what, is said and done, you can't, there is nothing we can provide you. If you're dyslexic, there is nothing we can do about it, because it was the 3 weeks before going to university, or the 3 weeks after the end of of college. University placement was already acknowledged. And yeah, so I've always struggled with writing, and I've always struggled with reading numbers and things like that. And yeah, I was classed as dyslexic, and nothing's changed. Unfortunately, I don't think I've ever been good with words and numbers and stuff, which is a shame. But yeah, it was one of those, I guess, pointless exercises that we had to do. But it was just a bit of a kick in the balls. It was sort of like, oh, good, I've got that to deal with now. So, Stalin Boy, are you more of a functional programmer? Let's see if that change has been made. Are you more of a functional programmer? That was in the wiki, wasn't it? So this is wiki.howtocodewell.net, refresh that. We now have the live streaming. Click on there, and we now have How to Code Well usually streams weekdays, Tuesdays, Thursdays at 7 GMT and Sundays at 14. So that's cool. This is why I like these static sites, because you can just, throw anything at it and it just builds statically. Very quick. Super quick. There was a problem, wasn't there? There was the formatting of things. I think there's a problem with Tailwind, to be honest. I think what I need to do, you see, that's now closed because I put in closes hash 8. So I think what I need to do here is I need to add another thing where we fix the it's not layout. Fix headers. The headers, and we're going to put in bracket H1, H2, H2, H2. The headers H1, H2 are not formatting correctly. So this is format. This could be a problem with Tailwind and how it is configured. Now, if we went to code challenges.howtocodewell.net, their H1s and their H2s, so they do look different, don't they? And why is that? So it's just H1, H2, and that's coming in as 1.5, whereas with the wiki itself, come on, it's a H2. It's just font size inherent. There is no, oh, here we are. So something's been removed there. Why has that been removed? From what? Can you see there's a line through it? Is there a way? Does anybody know if there's a way of finding? I guess it's in computed styles, isn't it? Font. I want to find what's overriding that. Font weight normal. Font size is 16. That's coming from inherit. So there is definitely something wrong with Tailwind here, I think. Whereas if I go to the code challenges, this is coming out. Yeah, I'm going to put this down as a problem with Tailwind. This could be a problem with Tailwind and how it's configured. Yeah. So Stalin Boy saying you use PHP. Yeah, PHP OOP is great. Functional programming is awesome. It's very hard. It's very difficult to do. What do you mean? I don't know what to spend my 1,000 points on. Let's change that to a bug. Let's put this in as a milestone. I think version 1 should be closed, and I think I'm going to call this version 2. So we're going to load up another version. So we go to issues here, and we go to milestones. That's completed, so that can be closed. So that was met last night, the MVP. So this is V2.000. I'm not going to put in a due date because I don't want that stress. But I'm going to do the description here is adding adding adjusting layout and styles. Adjusting layout, styles, and SEO. Create the milestone. Okay, so in issues, I want to select all of these and put these down as version 2 as a milestone. And there was another one as well. I don't like the padding of some of these sites. In fact, this was brought up by the mods earlier. Can you see that? Look at that. That's not good. When I bring that up, that's not. I'm not a massive fan of that. It's a huge space. So I'm going to put in a new issue here, and this is format the padding for the footer. The footer padding is not correct. There is too much space between the footer and the main content. Okay, cool. So we're going to assign that again. Put it in as labels as a bug. Projects, there's no projects there yet. Version 2. So with projects, I think what I'll do is create a new project here. And we're just going to call this SEO and style and styles. This meets V2.0.0. I'm going to set this up as an automated Kanban. We're going to get rid of all of these. I wish I could just not have these as defaults. Maybe there is a way, but I just want to remove these. That one goes over there. So does this. and so does that. Okay, so that's the second version laid out nicely. So I want to add a title and a description. I also would like to add, did that not submit? Maybe it didn't submit. Labels, bug, project, SEO and styles, there we go. And this is version 2. Good. I also would like, format the header, format the padding. I would also like to add the favicon. This should be the how to code well favicon, which might change. But again, we're going to assign to me, and we're going to put that as the bug, and we're going to set this as styles and SEO and version 2. Submit. Sweet. Okay, so that's that sorted. Wonderful. Wonderful. And there's other things as well. If I go to the, if I come out of here, if I go to the code of conduct, again, headers are awful. These should be in bold. These should be numbered. So there's bugs here. Bugs all over the place. Let's see if we can add some links into here. So this is in the code of conduct. So we've got issues already. So add a meta title description, convert to a PWA. I probably had a couple of beers when I wrote that. Update the favicon. Okay, cool. So that's cool. So projects. What projects have we got here? They're all complete, so that can go. So let's create a new project. Again, we're going to call this styles. Styles and SEO. This is V2.0.0. Set this as the automated Kanban, not basic Kanban, automated Kanban. There we go. And let's remove these things. Okay, add metadata, add the description, update there. We're going to leave the PWA for another day. I think that's a rainy day type affair. But we want to add another issue, don't we? We want to add another issue. And if we go to the milestones, let's delete that milestone because that's done. Let's create a new milestone, which is V2.0.0. This is styles and SEO. Okay, so in issues, let's grab all of these, set these to 2.0. And then let's do a new issue because there's an issue here with the code of conduct in the sense of it's missing numeric list styles. The list style is missing. It is a bug. Cool. Okay. So list styles, metadata, meta description. There was also another one, the headers as well. Headers are screwed up. So fix or format, I should say. Format headers. The H the headers bracket h1, h2 are incorrect. Okay. Bug. Yep. So, and this is kind of how I want things to sort of flow, you know. So if anybody from the community wants to join in, then please, please feel free to. And if anybody wants to suggest anything, then please feel free to on these repos. I'll provide you the link to the actual repo itself. It is here. This is the list of repos. Yeah. Okay, let's go back to, so that's that one. Code of conduct. How to ask a question. Again, look, there is some common problem. There is some common problem. I think it's, no, I don't know why. Is it, let me just see. Is it something to do with, it's headings, not headers, but whatever. Headers are unstyled with preflight. Ah, gotcha. Margins are 0. Headings are unstyled. There's the inherit thing there. Okay. Lists are unstyled. This is why. Borders are okay. If you'd like to completely disable preflight, perhaps because you are integrating Tailwind into an existing project or because you would like to provide your own base styles, all you need to do is set preflight to false in the core plugin section of your Tailwind config. Do I want to do this or not? Probably not. So this means that I'm going to have to define my own headers, which is fine. That's fine. I think going forward, because you've probably noticed that there's a lot of the same bugs in the same projects. I think really what I need to do, thinking about it, is to have my own CSS file that I can inject into this somehow. So yeah, I might take a look at how to do that, how that is done. Because what I don't want to do is I don't want each of these microsites to diverge into their own sort of CSS worlds. So, I mean, I was thinking potentially we could have like our own CDN where we have our common styles, or I mean, that would work if we were on different boxes of different systems and stuff, or have an npm package for CSS styles that we can inject into our microsites here. Yeah, I think I might look at that. I'll write that down as a note. I'll use a pen for that this time. I'll write in my notebook. Because really what I want to do is just update one thing and then redeploy the sites, and then it's done. I don't want to have to go into each site and configure the CSS individually, because that would drive me nuts. That would drive me absolutely up the wall. So I'm just going to write in my notebook here, create a means of sharing CSS between sites. Exclamation mark. Okay, so that's probably going to be my first thing to do. Because if I can do that and fix those issues and then republish the sites, then that would be a big win, I think, going forward. Essentially, what I want is for these things to be easy to spin up and create and modify in the future. And if I make if I make a change in one, I want that change to be reflected in the others. Why don't I make my own CSS framework? Because there's many CSS frameworks, and no, that's too much work, far too much work. I'm using Tailwind. As the framework. My challenge here is that these are subdomains. These are individual websites. These things, and I want to have a consistent look and feel for each one of these. It's okay for the components, these React components, because the styles go along with the React components. Obviously, the styles of the site override the styles of the React components, but on their own, they are styled up. They have Tailwind in, so that's at least something. But I want to have a consistent style, essentially a style guide. Yeah. There must be a way of doing it. However, I don't really know yet how. I mean, apart from creating a CSS file and then externally linking it to the sites, I mean, that's a way to go, right? But I don't think that's probably. I'm not sure that's the best way to go, especially if I'm using React components. There must be a React-esque solution here. Some way I can create a JavaScript module that holds the CSS for everything. Because I don't think the CSS is going to be terribly big. So I think that would be okay. Cool. Okay. Right. We've just hit the 3-hour mark. It's now 3 hours and 32 seconds. I am going to need to go and grab my dinner, my Sunday dinner, which I'm so super looking forward to. This is, as I mentioned, this is the last stream of 2019, the last live stream, last How to Code Well live stream. Which is nuts if you think about it. It's nuts. So, before I go, I just want to wish everybody let's go into this mode. Before I go, I just want to wish everybody a happy holidays, a good chill out time. And I want to thank everybody for coming on and chatting with me today, and also following. I'll go through the list of people who've followed today. So, Freising, Slayer Darth, Marco 8137, Sam Arat 6192. Thank you all for following. I do appreciate it. And of course, the Kiwi birds. Thank you ever so much. I do appreciate it. If you didn't see the podcast last week, we have a new end of year special. It's about, I don't know, 5-6 minutes long. It's a short podcast, but it's a montage of a lot of the guests who have been on this year. It's fascinating. It's fantastic. It's a lot of footage that you haven't seen, and I'm super happy with it. I'm even thinking of using it as a channel trailer for YouTube, which is awesome. So if you haven't done so already, please do consider taking a look at the podcast. I'll put that down here, podcast. And of course, do consider joining the Discord community, because in there we've got coding help challenges. We've got coding help channels. So if you want coding help, if you've got some code that you want to talk through, do check that out. Also, do check out the project feedback channel there as well. We've got channels in there for new coders. We of course have the pro user chat channel. So if you are a Twitch subscriber or if you're a Patreon, you have access to that. And of course the town hall, which I will be considering the next town hall in January. The next stream, I should say before I go, is the 2nd of January. That's Tuesday, the 2nd of January. That'll be at 7 in the morning, 7 GMT. And then we're going to do the Code Challenges review on the 5th. So the first Sunday of January, we'll be doing the Code Challenges. And the Code Challenges site, if I just showed you here, I'll just quickly show you what the challenge is. it is to create a Happy New Year card with your username. So Happy New Year from. Use a nice Christmassy font. And then in level 2, add an image border. So if you want to challenge yourself, go to level 2, add an image border, and add fireworks. Bonus points if you don't use JavaScript. So if you use CSS animations, that would be awesome. So if you want to join, go to codechallenges.howtocodewell.net. Take a look at what you need to do, and then submit your challenge. That will go off to the Discord server, so where you get an invite there. And there's the Code Challenges channel where you can submit your GitHub repository, and that will be fantastic. And then on the 5th, I will do a review of those live and then submit that to YouTube as well. So, without further ado, thanks ever so much for watching. Happy coding, everyone. Have a fantastic holiday, and I will see you again on the 2nd. If not, I'll talk to you on the Discord server. Happy coding, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.